So for me, my journey was, number one, do I have a good reason to believe that these are reliable eyewitness accounts? And up to the miracles, I would have said yes. But when it got to the miracles, I would have said no. So in other words, this is some form of historical fiction, I would have said.
Right.
So the next thing I had to do was ask myself, well, why do I accept some of this, but I reject the miracle accounts? Because I'm a philosophical naturalist. I was an atheist.
Okay.
So my next question was, do I think that my philosophical naturalism can really explain the universe the way it is? And that's when I started to do the work that's in God's crime scene. Because now the question was, do I think that there's good reason to believe that just space, time, matter, the laws of physics and chemistry can get everything else we see in the universe? Really? Can just that explain everything? Because if I'm wrong about that, and there's something that has to be extra natural, something outside just what we call nature, space, time, matter, the laws of physics and chemistry, well then I got to at least open up the door to supernatural activity, including the miracles that are in the Gospels. So that's why, for me, my journey was kind of backwards from a lot of atheists. I wasn't interested, does God exist and is Christianity true? I stumbled into the Gospels and realized these look like reliable accounts to me.
Yeah.
But they contain miracles. So I had to do the extensive work, which I talk about in God's crime scene, to know that it turns out that my naturalism does not explain the universe very well, and that there's a better explanation for the universe, and that's that God is the designer of that universe.
Yeah. I know, I've read a lot of books, and a lot of them I can't remember because they get deeper and deeper, but as you kind of follow, whether it's a book against Christianity or whether it's a book for Christianity, I spent a lot of time just reading, and then I'd have a dictionary beside me, and I would check things out in this area, and when I got done, I'd always have this concept that this is a really lousy book at disproving God. And then I'd pick up a book for God. And I got to tell you, of all the stuff that I've gone through over the years, that the brilliant stuff is the stuff for God. And if Christians would just start to read a little bit rather than watch your favorite screaming evangelist only.
Well, and think about this too. You know that documentaries never quite do as well as narratives, as dramatic narratives. And this is why I think that this God is not dead.
What do you mean by dramatic narrative?
Well, I mean,
a movie?
A movie, yeah.
Okay.
So for example, you're far less likely, we're going to do a series of evidential documentaries related to God's not dead. But I suspect that in the end, those won't be nearly as well received or as well watched as the movies themselves.
Right.
Well, it's because we're more interested in the story.
Yep.
And it's what we try to do in these movies now is to look, there may only be 10 minutes in a 2-hour movie that really is about making the case for why this is true. But what's brilliant about it is it's couched in the drama that engages you, and you buy in it. Now you're interested enough to actually listen.
If a teacher's getting nailed for saying something as simple as Jesus, you're on her side, and now you want to see what's going to happen to her in that court, and who's going to stand up for her.
That's
She better win this. It's true, the story.
So it kind of pulls you in. Now my hope is that this is the catalyst that takes the average Christian who watches a movie like this and wakes up that, to realize, I probably should be able to master some of these things. I probably should, if somebody asked me, would I be able to do this? This is really the next step for us, right? Is to know, are we able to articulate what's available evidentially, but we just don't pay attention to it.
No, that's true.
Now, granted, we spend a lot of time, though, we probably know what the stats are on our fantasy teams. We know, listen, we're spending 10 hours a week doing something. Are we spending the 10 hours preparing ourselves to be good case makers?
Well, what's interesting is when you're raised in a Christian, I was raised in a phenomenal Christian home. My parents are both pastors, loved God, and they actually took me on all these journeys. I read apologetics books, as a young guy, 12, 13, etc. So I'm totally convinced. But still, there came a time in my life where I felt myself disengaging from the fact my parents are right, my parents are right, my parents are right. And I began to get older and like, okay, they're not infallible. And then for myself, I again re-examined the evidence. And so for all these Christian families that are watching today, you need to get something like this into your home so you can talk that way. Like I got 5 kids, and I was just, as you were talking at the beginning of the show, I was just, because I'm at a place right now where they're all working with us. I mean, none of them are perfect. They're kids, but no, they're not kids, they're adults, but they love God. And I was thinking, did I do that? And I thought, actually, my parents taught me to do that. We talked our way through other world religions, the effect it has on countries there. How do they treat women? How do they treat kids? How do we deal with drugs, alcohol, sex? Why would the Bible say this? We would just keep talking about it, and we'd talk about their friends and what it did to their life. And so there almost was what you were saying. I kind of probably by accident stumbled onto this, that we just talked our way through everything
Yeah.
by looking at what's out there.
Yeah, running it through the lens of your Christian worldview. And when it comes down to, in the end, when you were asked, because all of us as parents try to do this, why is this true, Mom? Why is this true, Dad?
Yeah.
Why do you think this is true? I think what our kids in this generation want to know
More than feelings.
is it's got to be more than just,
Yeah.
because if the thing we typically reject as a young person is wanting to be just exactly like Dad.
Yeah.
Well, give me something that's outside of you
Right.
that demonstrates this is true.